pencil shavings on the ground, so I ate them, and that's when I really started to feel kind of odd.
Hey, welcome to the Boise... Did I cut you off there?
Oh, no, it's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to the Boise Hive Podcast. This is Nino. I am in the studio today with my, again, graphic designer, engineer, co-executive producer, Alex Gamble. Say hi, Alex.
Howdy.
All right. I think Daniel Bueller's in the background. Say something.
Hello.
And then we also have the pleasure of having Daniel Leone from the Synth Society here. Say hi. Sorry. Say hi, dude.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going good. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you so much. So here we are on another episode of
With all of the Daniels.
There couldn't be more Daniels
One
here.
and
We're
two.
full. Like if there's a Daniel outside, they're gonna have to wait. Yeah, we're topped out on Daniels right now. So
There's
again,
a few
welcome.
more around here. Just
I'm sure.
Throwing it out there.
It's pretty common.
But yeah, just me. The 1 and 2 is the main ones.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
There's 3 and 4 that pop in every once in a while.
Daniel and Salam.
Yeah.
All right, so again, welcome to the show. We'll talk about which is to prevent suicide within the local music community, and we talk about this a lot. The podcast mission is to amplify the mission of the Hive, and there's a lot of good things that go on here. On Tuesdays, we have Life Recovery, 12 to 1:30. On Wednesdays, we have Sober Curious, 6 to 7:30. On the last Wednesday of every month, we have open mic 6 to 8. Thursdays, we have hip hop 6 to 10. And Fridays, we have a Vets Jam It Out night from 6 to 9. You don't have to be a vet. You can come to any of these things. If you're not in the scope, it's completely fine. But especially with the Vets Jam It Out, the more the merrier. We'll get right down into it. So today we will start off with a band feature. We always do 2 every episode, and we are going to start off with the Neocentrics, and this song is called "Oh No, a Bar Fight." And they can be reached at Linktree /Neocentrics. That's NEOCENTRICS. And again, this song's called "Oh No, a Bar Fight."
Shadow blocking out the sun, waking me up from my sleep, asking if I need some help. Pick me up off of the ground, dust the sand from my shoulders, questioning all of my dreams.
Okay, once again, that is the Neocentrics with "Oh No, a Bar Fight." And again, they can be reached at Linktree /Neocentrics. That's NEOCENTRICS. So today we're going to talk about anxiety a little bit before we get into our interview with Daniel. And something that I found out recently in this podcast research is that anxiety is the #1 mental health issue in the U.S. And it makes a lot of sense. Might be worth talking about the definition because I did find this interesting. And the definition of anxiety is actually a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease typical about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. And what struck me so compelling about this is what do you do where you know where the outcome is going to be? And in a certain level, this has to be life debilitating. And I think everyone kind of, as a cliche, says, oh, I'm having anxiety today. And maybe you are on a certain level. But something that I found really just scary is that there are people out there that it debilitates their life. They can't go anywhere. They isolate. They miss out on relationship opportunities, on hanging out with friends and family. And and putting yourself in an isolated scenario can be very detrimental, especially when it comes to like suicidal thoughts and things of that nature. So it just kind of struck me that it's widespread and it's so debilitating. I guess I also saw that 264 plus million people around the world deal with anxiety, and I'm talking about a more severe type of anxiety. The most common mental disorders in the U.S. that can tie into anxiety are things like phobia, social anxiety, PTSD, panic disorders. All of these things can lead to anxiety. And obviously, seeing a doctor and possibly taking medication or being prescribed medication is probably the best way to handle something like this. But one of the common denominators that I found in doing this research is there are natural ways to fight anxiety. And we've talked about them a little bit before on the show, but I did want to highlight what they call the 5 tips to man, because they're all things that you can do yourself. You don't have to have a doctor necessarily or anything like that, besides the medication portion. But one of the things, and we've talked about it before, is prioritize sleep. Figure out what your sleep pattern is, make those adjustments. I know, Alex, you've had to do this. Is that correct?
That was a game changer for me, yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that, I have the luxury of doing now in my life, but when you're at work and you're on a schedule, sometimes it's just not possible. So maybe on your days off, focusing on recharging and getting that sleep you need. Also, stay active. And it was specifically when it said stay active, it wasn't talking about sitting in your home and doing projects at your home. It was talking about go outside, be active, go out in society, force yourself to kind of be put into these unknown situations on a more regular basis. Maybe not throw yourself right into it, but there was research that said that kind of bringing yourself at a slow level back into society can help these types of things. And just general good healthy living, making sure you're sleeping right, making sure you're drinking enough water, making sure that you have a healthy diet. All of these things really play heavily into your mental psyche. And we're coming to find out more and more how important these types of things are. And also limiting alcohol and substance abuse. These types of things can amplify these types of feelings. And although it's a separate topic for a separate podcast that I'm sure we'll get into, but limiting alcohol and other substances can be huge. Also, like I was saying before, medications can come into play, but even practicing meditation, something else, wherever that be, wherever your style of meditation is, having a regimen where you're taking time to silence the outside world and to just really focus in on your inner self is huge. So again, I'm just trying to normalize these types of things, have these conversations, and I appreciate you guys having the time. Alex, what you got?
Yeah, it just reminded me of a conversation that we actually had not too long ago about sort of what it felt like for you when you sort of first left your, busy, high-powered job and you found yourself with like not much to do, like nothing was being demanded of you, and you found that you felt more anxious. I found that kind of compelling because it's like I've been in those shoes where there's a certain amount of things you're supposed to be anxious about in order to like operate at a high level, and then when all of that suddenly goes away, you have that same amount of anxiety and nothing to channel it toward. And that's why, for me personally, what helps with like my anxiety is just putting it towards something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll touch on that too, because and everybody that's been hanging out with me recently has heard me say that I am currently mentally recovering from 12 years in corporate insurance. And I couldn't be more honest about that. My sleep schedule was wake up at 4 a.m, go to work 5 to 2, go home, do your family stuff, go to bed at 8 o'clock. And that probably went on for close to 13 years. So you develop a little bit of a pattern in that time frame. And all of a sudden I said, you know what? I don't want to work in corporate insurance anymore. Again, another topic for another episode, but I just stopped and I didn't have a routine. I didn't have anywhere to go. I found myself sitting in my office at the same desk that I had been sitting at, but my work computer's not on because I don't work there. My logins don't even work anymore. And I'm like, what am I doing? Luckily, I found the Hive, was able to find the podcast and be able to do a passion project while I'm in between professions. But yeah, there's other things too, is that I haven't drove at night in 10 years. So when I'm going to shows and stuff now, like it's always bizarre to me. I'm like, I'm driving around at night right now. Like, oh my God, there's people at Walmart at night. Like, this is crazy. Like, my kids are laughing at me because they'd probably drive around more at night than I do. But my schedule just didn't really allow for that. Like, I get out to shows every once in a while. So it's not like I never go out, but just acclimating myself back into society, especially Boise. Because I'll be honest about it. Some people don't want to talk about this and they're shy about it, but it is what it is. I'm from California, deal with it. And I moved to Boise and I fell in love with this community and I've become a part of this community and I've been putting my extra time and energy, whether it be at the YMCA or whether it be here at the Boise Hive Podcast. And I fell in love with this community. I became a part of this community. And it's when you work in that California corporate insurance, decimate all your coworkers, make as much money as you can, get the highest numbers as possible. It works in California. But guess what? I've been working remotely for 7 years here in Idaho. So now I'm done and I'm trying to go on job interviews. I'm trying to talk to people like, if you hire me, I will decimate everyone and I will make more money than everyone. And I hate to say it, in this community, it's not required. They just want you to show up, be a good dude, be reliable, and work hard. And it's going to take time for me to be able to adjust to that because I've been working remotely so long from California. Anyways, I digress. I could talk about that all day, but it's truly been eye-opening on reacclimating myself in a new community, it feels like.
It's interesting. You know, they say that quitting certain things cold turkey can be dangerous, and the same is true of a lot of really mundane things.
Sure.
Like a job.
All right, so lighten things up a little bit. I'm glad I was able to talk about that. I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But we do today in the studio have Daniel Leone. And so say hi again. You've been sitting here being so quiet. There he is. He's here.
Well, I was just letting you do your thing, man. I'm just here following your lead, man.
And you're doing a great job.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you came in. So tell us a little bit about who Daniel is and what brought you to Boise.
Good question. Daniel, well, I'm about to be 28 next month, and I'm just a musician, music enthusiast that moved here about 5 years ago. So I also am from California, so
you good old Riverside boy, I remember.
Yeah.
Good old Riverside
we
boy.
have a similar story. I came here. I work remotely, same kind of thing. We've talked about that a few times.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I totally kind of get where you're coming from.
It's a transition.
Just what you're saying. Yeah. But yeah, like I moved up here, and like the first thing I was doing was like, where like music friends and things like that. Where could I go? And I went to a lot of open mics and just like would scour the Facebook groups, like where do people hang out, that sort of thing. And eventually I saw this place because like people wanted to jam, and it's like, where do you do that? And this was like the
common story. It's how people get in here.
This was like the main spot, and so that was like I moved here like 5 years ago, and
how soon after you moved here did you find the Hive?
Probably about like 1 or 2 years.
Okay, yeah, it took me about that too.
Yeah, and I wasn't really into music that much like prior to moving here. Like I just started playing guitar, and like I didn't play any instruments prior. Like when I lived in California, like I just picked up the guitar and like started getting into things. And then once I moved here, it's like that kind of the hobby took over, you know.
And you do a little bit more than play guitar. I mean, don't be shy. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
What
That's
else
what
do you
it-
do?
yeah.
Because I know you got a bunch of toys. So what else do you like to do?
Right. So, like guitar, I don't really even consider myself much of a guitar player at this point, but that's kind of how I just started getting into things. I play, synths, and I really just consider myself like a gear enthusiast more of than a musician.
100%.
I just really like figuring out what gear does, and I like to buy pedals and buy different synthesizers.
It's a sickness.
Yeah, it's not. I don't recommend it
It's
for anybody. It's
gear
not a good
acquisition
idea.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna have a financial episode.
It's a horrible idea, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, and first of all, you
Yeah.
shouldn't undercut yourself. I think you're a great musician.
Oh, absolutely.
thank you.
Oh,
Also,
absolutely.
Yeah, you have the
Yeah.
coolest gear. I feel
what I
like
like about
every
it
week
is-
when I see you again, you have some cool new thing that we can geek out about.
It's just
Right,
like some
yeah.
new thing, and he's running it through like Big Sky or something. He's always got some rig, and it sounds amazing. But yeah, so I appreciate the ambience and a lot of the stuff that you bring to the table, because sometimes people don't do that. It's not very common, and I appreciate all your little weird gadgets and sounds that you have. They're really fun.
Yeah, like I always say, like I like to build like rigs and setups, like pedal boards and synth rigs, and like a setup for a certain purpose, like certain kind of music or something. Like this is my ambient setup, or this
absolutely.
is my techno setup, or I like doing that more than like just getting better at guitars or something. I just like getting lost in that world.
Oh, I can totally tell when I see you bring your stuff and you're in there, we're jamming, like what the knobs do and everything, and it's really fun to see because it's different. It's not always just like a synthesizer, you know what I
Right.
mean? It could be some new thing that you just got that you don't even know how to use, but you bring it, you plug it in, it sounds amazing. It's always something cool. Now,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about this Synth Society, one of the first little organizations that kind of took me under their wing when I moved up here, and kind of was just like, welcome me into their circle. I'll be forever in debt to you guys for that, because it was a little bit difficult for us to break into the Boise music scene. But tell us a little bit about the history, how this become. I know you guys are heavily tied to the Hive, but let's hear what you got.
Yeah, so it started probably like 2 years ago. I think it was like 2021, like summer. And like I was starting to play electronic music and trying to meet other people. And like the first person I met was Squirrel and like Helium Shelium, and like we were all pretty tight, and we tried to play shows together. And then, we all knew about the Hive and came here. And it's also Black Market Analog and Heather and a bunch of others like that were just kind of involved in our immediate group or whatnot. So yeah, like we just like were trying to play shows, and like we couldn't really fit in anywhere with like bands because we were doing like not really DJ electronic music, but like it was dance music and things like that, and we just couldn't really figure out like what shows to play at. And so we always were trying to find opportunities, and that's what led us to like, hey, let's do a show at the Hive, because like I was volunteering here and helping out with the shows, and like let's just do our own thing here. Like I'm sure they'll let us.
Such a good place for
put
that. It's
something
like a
on.
lot of the births of band I'm finding out happen here at the Hive, because it's such a laid back place. Like they're going to give you a shot.
Yeah, right. So like I remember we just approached Greg about it, and the idea was just like I just wanted to put on a show here with all three of us and see what happened from there. So we did a show, and then we were like kind of all chatting after, and we're like, oh, let's start a Facebook group, and let's try to find more of these synth musicians in Boise and see who else is out there. And it just like we're just like, all right, let's just do like a monthly show here. And we proposed that to the Hive, and they were definitely all about having us do that. So yeah, we just, since like summer 2021, we were doing like a monthly show here and just like trying to meet other electronic musicians. And the whole idea behind the Synth Society was like to put on live electronic music shows, like something that's a little bit different than like, the DJ-esque sort of stuff, because, that sort of crowd is like, it's catering to different sort of people. and we wanted to be like more like a live band sort of thing, and so we just like knew there was like something that we needed to do so we could have opportunities, and that was the whole idea, and kind of just created our own little niche in the community.
And it's great too. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I've been to a few of those shows. They are really fun. I remember somebody was like frying up curly fries the whole time, and it was like amazing.
Yeah, and
Justin.
it's just good to know because you guys, I mean, you're very humble, but you guys are pretty active in the community. I go to shows and I see you guys here and there, whether it's you or Squirrel or someone. So, and you guys are just very welcoming, and you're all about wanting to bring up new acts. That's what I love about it is you guys are trying to take these, synth or electronic acts, and you're trying to give them a spotlight because you're always trying to find that fresh new blood. And a lot of the times up here, from what I hear from even other bands, you guys are like the first line of defense that are like, hey, come on over here, and we'll get you a show. And I'm not the only one that's benefited from that. And I'm sure there's other people out there that appreciate what you guys have been doing. It's been really cool.
Yeah, that's like I really appreciate hearing that. I just wanted to find other musicians that were doing that sort of thing. So it's like anyone who wanted to play, it doesn't matter how good you are, or if you've done it once or you play all the time. It's like, let's just get you on stage. If you're interested, let's make it happen. So there's
Absolutely.
room for everybody. And I really think that's the whole goal in the beginning was to let's just find more synth and electronic friends, regardless of your ability. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, and I totally get that too, especially when you guys have your jams, which is something we're talking about. You guys, on top of your guys' show, which we'll talk about too in a little bit, you guys get together pretty regularly and have meetings and welcome people to come jam. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that was actually the first jam we did, and
Dude, that was fun.
yeah, we should do more. I was just mentioning the other day that we probably should do that more, but. Yeah, I mean, we haven't really been active this winter. We just I personally have just been taking a little break from playing gigs and things like that. But we're still planning some things out, and we'll get back at it in the springtime and whatnot.
And what about Hivetronica? How often do you guys try to do those?
Yeah, the goal last year was to try to do it every month, and we pretty much did that. We went out of town and did a show in Seattle, so we didn't do one in one of the months, and then I think we took maybe December off, but for the most part I think we did a show every month, and then other shows throughout Boise area. So yeah, we just did as many as we could, and
Cool.
Whatever opportunities, they weren't sometimes no one shows up, and that's the reality of putting on shows in Boise. You just got to keep doing it. If you like doing it, then you have fun regardless.
We talked about that on just the last episode we did. Every band has to go through that.
Yeah.
You got to get on stage, you got to show up to a show, and you got to play to nobody. It's kind of like a test on whether you really want to do it or not. If you can play a show with nobody and still be stoked, then you're in the right you're in the right niche. But I will also say that it's so good though, because again, a lot of the times these are these niche people that have a bunch of rad gear that's not necessarily the typical thing. It's that first show that they're going to get, that opportunity to be like, do you really want to do this or not?
Yeah.
But it's cool that the Synth Society is just so open to just new acts and not necessarily curated to ability, like you said, more just new fresh blood in the community. It's very refreshing.
Yeah.
So we'll ask you this. We ask everyone this on the interview, so we'll get your take on this. What do you think about the relationship between mental health and music?
Sure. I mean, obviously I'm pretty involved in the Hive here, so that's the main mission. And, we talk about that, every week. But I think, you're saying, the relationship between music specifically? Yeah.
How do you think music can infect or can impact mental health?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's the biggest thing in my life besides family, work, and all the important responsibilities. But besides that, music is what I do all the time, and when I'm not doing those things. So for me, it's integral for my mental health. I depend on it for sure to,
Yeah.
you know, just get through the day and enjoy my life more because it's a huge hobby of mine. And yeah, I think there's so many life lessons that I've, you know, learned from like playing music and like, you know, learning, you know, instruments and gear and things like that. There's all sorts of things that, you know, I've gained, you know, from having music as a hobby in my life.
And keeping yourself busy is a part of mental health too.
Yeah, yeah.
And by having gadgets and having to learn how all the knobs works and stuff like that, I'm sure there's hours of fun there.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, music, mental health, obviously, they're, you know, go hand in hand. As far, I mean, if it's a hobby of yours, I mean, anything that's like important to somebody, like that's going to help them in, you know, like difficult times or.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to go ahead and thank Daniel so much for being here and having this discussion with us. This has been awesome. We're probably going to have him on regularly at some point just to kind of keep us updated with the Synth Society and all the good stuff they do. But I just want to thank you for doing the Synth Society and being that first line of defense for so many musicians up here. Whatever you guys need, let me know. I'm always down to help the Synth Society, and hopefully we could have some rad shows in the future.
Yeah, we definitely will. So thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
All
Thanks,
right,
Alex.
man. So, as always, if you'd like to reach out to the Boise Hive, we can be reached at boisehive.org. You could also search up our YouTube channel, which is, you can just search Boise Hive on YouTube. We have a bunch of cool videos and live performances up there. Our telephone number here is 208-344-4994. And as always, if you are experiencing any type of suicidal thoughts or are in the middle of a crisis, please do not hesitate to text 988. Again, this is Nino for the Boise Hive Podcast in the studio with Alex, Daniel, and Daniel signing off today. It's been great. Let's go!
All right, and playing us out today, we got a little track from the French Tips. The song is called Farewell. You can find the French Tips on Linktree at Linktree/the French Tips or on Instagram at the French Tips Band. Here we go, y'all.